Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, with my Week 5 2015 NFL predictions. Well, this week I've had a so-so week to my standards. Right now I am 8-6, which now puts my record for this year at 39-23, which equals about a little bit over. I could probably gain about 2 or 3 hundredths of a point for my percentage. So I really didn't move up this week in my percentage, which I'm fine with. There's still 12 weeks to go and end the playoffs. But it was definitely for me a very sorry guys, I'm still battling. I know I've said this for 2 weeks now. I think I'm finally getting over it. I haven't taken any medicine over the last few days, but the coughing has really subsided a lot without the medicine, so that's good. So even though I still might cough a little bit here and there, but I digress. But it was in a really frustrating week for me as a prognosticator because 5 of my 6 losses were within 6 points of each other. And that's one of those things as a prognosticator that you love because it's like the losses, you don't look stupid in picking the teams. Yeah, like to me there's always a scale of 0 or 1 to 10 points is a good scale of you could argue that it was a close game. And you could say, hey, I didn't look stupid if this happened, this didn't happen, I could have got it right, or it was just some crazy thing. 10 to 21, or 10 to 20, 10 to 21 is a scale of it's a decisive win. Is that you could defend a couple things here and there, but not like you could in the close game. 21 or higher, if you get blown out that much, you really can't defend anything you said about your pick because that was just a clear domination of one team over the other. So again, for 5 of the 6 games to be decided by 6 points or less, it's a little bit frustrating. But again, hey, kudos to those teams for pulling it out, and unkudos to the teams that had the perspective of choking those games away. I'd like to congratulate New Orleans and Baltimore for getting their first wins of the year in 2 very thrilling fashions. Justin Tucker having to kick a 52-yarder at Heinz Field. That was the second longest field goal ever at Heinz Field, which is amazing. And actually, field goal kickers at Heinz Field, when they kick 50 or plus yards, only make about 29% of their kicks, which is about 30 points less than every other field in the NFL. That was an interesting stat I found out. That was unique to that situation. And in New Orleans, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Drew Brees for throwing his 400 touchdown pass on an 80-yard pass to C.J. Spiller, which basically broke the game. And it was the shortest overtime game in regular season history. So kudos to the Saints for ending the game like that. This week for buys, the Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins, Minnesota Vikings, and New York Jets all have buys this week. So Cam Newton, Ted Ginn, Jonathan Stewart, Miami defense, Tannehill, Landry, AP, Bridgewater, the Vikings defense, Jennings, Jets defense, Fitzpatrick, Ivory, Brandon Marshall. All those guys benched them because they're not playing this week. All right, time for my picks. This Thursday, when the 2-2 Indianapolis Colts go to the 0-4 Houston Texans, I am taking the Indianapolis Colts. And then on Sunday, when the 1-3 Cleveland Browns go to the 1-3 Baltimore Ravens, I am taking the Baltimore Ravens. When the 2-2 St. Louis Rams go to the 4-0 Green Bay Packers, I am taking the Green Bay Packers. When the 2-2 Buffalo Bills go to the 1-2 Tennessee Titans, I am taking the Buffalo Bills. When the 1-3 New Orleans Saints go to the 1-3 Philadelphia Eagles, I am taking the New Orleans Saints. When the 2-2 Washington Redskins go to the 4-0 Atlanta Falcons, I am taking the Atlanta Falcons. When the 1-3 or 2-2 Seattle Seahawks go to the 4-0 Cincinnati Bengals, I am taking the Cincinnati Bengals. When the 1-3 Chicago Bears go to the 1-3 Kansas City Chiefs, I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs. When the 1-3 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 1-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I am taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. When the 3-1 Arizona Cardinals go to the 1-3 or 0-4 Detroit Lions, I am taking the Arizona Cardinals. When the 3-0 New England Patriots go to the 2-2 Dallas Cowboys, I am taking the New England Patriots. When the 4-0 Denver Broncos go to the 2-2 Oakland Raiders, I am taking the Denver Broncos. And then the Sunday night game, when the 1-3 San Francisco Giants go to the 2-2 New York Giants, I kind of thought of the Giants. Pardon me there. When the 1-3 San Francisco 49ers go to the 2-2 New York Giants, I am taking the New York Giants. And then on Monday night, when the 2-2 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 2-2 San Diego Chargers, I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. Alright, time for my thoughts on each game. Indianapolis at Houston. Man, both teams look still very shaky. Kudos to Matt Hasselbeck, the 40-year-old quarterback, still getting it done. Excuse me. Still getting it done. He played a very good game, in my opinion. I think he had about 280 yards, and he completed about 60 to 65% of his passes. So that's pretty good for a 40-year-old quarterback who hadn't started in 3 years. I still couldn't believe that Frank Gore fumbled again in the red zone. That's the second time that's happened this year, which is very Frank Gore-like. But I look at these two teams, and even if Andrew Luck, who by the way missed his first start in his entire career, which is very big, and again, the fact that this is only 4 days out, I have a feeling that if he can't throw today or tomorrow, that he's not going to play this game. So there was a part of me that's saying that he should have played in the Jacksonville game, and he should have rested for this Houston game, because I think that this Houston defense, with its line and with how shaky this Indianapolis offensive line has been all year long. Andrew Luck's been hit the most out of any quarterback since he's come in the league, at about 100 hits, which is amazing. But I look at this Indy team, and I feel like, again, they have too much talent to beat this Houston team, which is struggling at the one main position, quarterback. Bill O'Brien and the Texans looked anemic due to that Atlanta game. They were getting blown off the Falcons' home dome. And it was actually very reminiscent to me of the Week 3 game when Houston played Tampa, when Atlanta played Tampa in Atlanta, and they blew them out, and they were up 45-0 before Mike Smith decided to bench them, and Tampa won, I think, in like the first half without even getting a first down. It almost kind of felt that way with how Houston played against Atlanta. But I look at these two teams and say Indy just has too much talent. I think even Matt Hasselbeck could beat this Houston Texans team, because the one thing that the Houston Texans still haven't figured out is their quarterback. Now that Bill O'Brien has benched Brian Mallett, now Brian Hoyer could be back in the job. So it's almost like the Houston Texans have put themselves in this major hole, where, again, they got Arian Foster back, and he actually had an insane fumble, where his offensive lineman actually knocked the ball out of his hand. I mean, how stupid do you have to be for that offensive lineman to actually knock the ball out of your own teammate's hand that went for a touchdown? But I look at this Houston team. They still, Vontae Davis will be out there, and they could stop DeAndre Hopkins, who's only their big receiving threat. And if Brian Hoyer and Mallett throwing them the ball, I'm just not really sold on that anyway. Indy's also won 15 straight games in the division. The last time they lost the division game, I think, was against Houston back in 2012. I think like week 5 or week 6. But this Houston team's a lot different now. They're really struggling with the quarterback position. So even if Andrew Luck decides to rest, I think that Matt Hasselbeck can win this game. I am nervous for his health, just because of J.J. Watt and, Clowney and Cushing and all those guys going after him. And Houston, they have a good enough defense they can put up a fight, but their offense really can't move the ball a lick. So, again, I think Indy, with the weapons they have, they just have enough talent in most areas to overpower the Houston Texan offense, which really doesn't have anything besides Foster. So, that's why I'm taking Indianapolis to beat Houston. Baltimore over Cleveland, this was really tough. As a Raven fan, I do have to say that I'm very happy that we won the game against Pittsburgh. Even though I will be as objective as I can, I think we actually were given the game by Pittsburgh. I could not believe that Josh Scobie, who's now cut, by the way, for Chris Boswell in a practice squad, or a preseason kicker from the Giants. So kudos to him, good luck to him. Because he missed a 41 and a 49-yard field goal. And I always kind of have this feeling, I know it's Heinz Field, that 50 or 50 plus is where I'll give an NFL kicker slack if he misses. Anything below that you should make. I don't really care about the conditions of the field. I know it was a bit windy. There was about a 10-mile breeze, they said. But you just can't have those decisions. And also, I couldn't believe that Mike Tomlin decided to throw on a 4th and 2, or decided to have Michael Vick try to do a power play, and then have Michael Vick throw it to the outside on Antonio Brown. And he completely overthrew Brown, and he missed it. And by the way, Antonio Brown's 35-game streak of having 5 plus receptions and 50 yards was ended by the Ravens, so that's pretty cool for us. But I digress. But to get back to the game, this is about, to me, an even matchup of teams. Because Steve Smith broke 4 ribs, and he is out for this game. He is week to week. So when you look at the receiving cores, they're about even. Kamar Aiken, Travis Benjamin, Duke Johnson, Taylor Gabriel, and all the Browns receivers are about even to about the Ravens receivers. The running games, I'll give us a little bit of an edge. The secondaries and defense, about the same. Cleveland's got some nice, veteran defensive players. We have some okay veteran defensive players. We don't have Suggs. And if Joe Hayden doesn't play, the secondaries are about even. So when you look at this game, it's pretty much a crapshoot. And by the way, Cleveland put up a heck of a fight against San Diego. I could not believe how good they played or how much fight they gave. Josh McCown again had another good game. But the key thing that keeps happening is, kind of just like with the Ravens and a lot of teams, is that they can't finish the deal. And Cleveland lost in one of the most Cleveland ways possible. They lost when the kicker missed a 38-yard field goal, which was bad in itself, because the Browns jumped off sides. He got 5 extra yards, and they kicked the game winner to win 30-27. I would have never thought that Phillip Rivers and Josh McCown would be in an offensive shootout. Never would have thought that. But when you have a game like this where you could argue, besides key things here, if Joe Hayden plays, they definitely have an edge in the secondary. But when these two teams are about evenly matched, I look at the quarterbacks, and I'm still going to go with Flacco over McCown any day of the week. And also we're at home. And I think if for a win like the Ravens had, with how much grit we had, with how much talent we lost, because we also lost Michael Campanaro to a neck injury, and we had to trade with the Rams to get Chris Givens, a 4th wide receiver on the Rams, that now kind of has to be our number 3. So, with that in mind, and Perryman's kind of like Kevin White now, he had surgery on his PCL, and now he's out indefinitely. But I look at this game and say, we're at home, and we have the better quarterback. Everything else pretty much in ways evens out, that I really can't give an advantage either way. So I just go to the main advantage of quarterback, and we're at home, and that's good enough for this type of game to say that we are going to win this game. So that's I'm taking the Ravens to beat the Browns. Green Bay over St. Louis. St. Louis really surprised me. They beat up the Cardinals' offensive line. I think they got Palmer about 3 or 4 times. He had an interception, I think, for the first time all year, which was very surprising. And Todd Gurley had a major game. You really saw what this guy can do for this Rams team. I think he ran for 146 yards. Incredibly impressive, especially against this Cardinal defense. And Nick Foles had a solid game. Nick Foles threw for about, 240 yards and a couple touchdowns. And again, I think the tone was set in the game when the Rams caused David Johnson the fumble right off the bat. So, kudos to the Rams for getting that big win. I think that really is kind of showing, even though, again, St. Louis has this odd pattern of somehow they love to play their division, but they can't beat most people outside of their division. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But hey, kudos to them for beating a very good Arizona team in Arizona. But when I look at this game, I think his offensive line of Green Bay's will get an extreme test with this Rams front seven, which is one of the best in the league. And then I look at just kind of offensively, Rodgers is Rodgers. He's thrown 11 touchdowns to no interceptions. I actually couldn't believe that they only scored 17 points. I thought they would get a lot more points than that. But kudos to the Packers for holding Kaepernick's offense to a grand total of 3 points. And Clay Matthews had this great soundbite where he was yelling at Kaepernick, "You're not Russell Wilson, bro." So I think that was a little shot at Kaepernick. And actually, with the way Kaepernick's been playing over the last 2 years, you definitely can make that kind of jab. Because Colin Kaepernick has definitely progressed a lot, but I'll get to that when I talk about the Niners and Giants. But I look at this Green Bay team. They've won 10 straight. They never lose at Lambeau. Often now they've won 10 straight going back to last year. Aaron Rodgers still hasn't thrown an interception this year or at Lambeau in over about 3 years, going on 3 years now. And I just look at this Packers offense and go, Rodgers with his weapons can beat Foles with his weapons. Because, again, Devontae Adams will die with a knee injury, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. Andrew Corliss, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So you have about, except Randall Cobb, who's the big X factor, you kind of have about the same kind of team again. Gurley, Lacey, Gurley's a little bit younger, Lacey's a bit more, experienced. But I look at this game and go, Green Bay, just with Rodgers at the helm, should beat this Rams team, because the one thing the Rams love to do is get out to the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is such a quick release that they won't be able to get to him in time. And I think that just for that momentum, I think the Packers should be able to win this game and go to 5-0 just because of that. I don't think the Rams defense, with how quick Rodgers throws the ball. If this was like Winston or somebody like Sam Bradford that doesn't have that, quick release, I think that the Packers, I think the Rams could have a chance. But since it's at Lambeau with Rodgers and how quick he's been playing, and just how fast his arm, he can throw the ball accurately, that's going to be the difference in this game. So that's why I'm going to take the Packers to beat the Rams. Buffalo over Tennessee. This one was interesting because I was incredibly disappointed in how weak the Bills looked against the Giants. They scored a grand total of 10 points. And I thought that they would put up a much bigger fight. They had over, I think, about 18 penalties for about over 140 yards. And Rex Ryan, was defending him saying, "Oh, I love a team that likes to fight." Yeah, Rex, you love a team that has that motivation, but there also has to come to a point where you have to look at discipline. And the one thing you realize there is that your team's not very disciplined. Which, again, if you keep having penalties, that will continue to harm this team. But I look at it this way. When you look at Buffalo and Tennessee, Tennessee's coming off a bye, so they're rested. And they've had time to prepare for this Bills team a bit longer since they've had a bye week. But the key thing is that this is a rookie quarterback that Rex is facing, and Ryans love to play rookies. They love to disguise blitzes and disguise schemes that really confuse the quarterback. And again, Marcus Mariota already has about 5 turnovers this year. 2 interceptions, but also 3 fumbles. So with this Bills pass rush going against this Titans offensive line, which has shown that it can definitely hold up a bit, but with this, I think that Bills defensive line can edge out that Titans offensive line just a bit. I think that Mariota's not going to have that big of a day. I think he can evade one guy, but when you have 2 or 3 coming at you, I don't think he can avoid that. He can avoid that many. When I look at Tennessee, they've looked impressive. They've competed in all their games. I just think, again, that Buffalo's defense will be too overbearing for Mariota to deal with. They'll be and then they'll also confuse him a lot. And I just think Tyrod Taylor, he's having a bit of a rough slump, or he's having up and down games, just like any starter would. I think he still looks pretty good, but I think this will be an up week for him. I think this Titans defense really doesn't have that much. They still don't have Jason McCourty. They have, Sammy Hill's still not in there. I think that Bills offensive line can protect enough that Tyrod can make plays because he kind of has Mariota-type feet. I'm not saying he runs like Mariota. I think Mariota's faster than him. But he has enough ability to avoid some rushers, and with the weapons he has, even though if they don't have LaShawn or Sammy again, that'll be a huge favor Tennessee. But I still think with the way the Titans have looked, I think the Bills will be able to make more plays on this Titans defense than the Titans offense will on the Bills defense. So that's I'm taking the Bills to beat the Titans. New Orleans over Philadelphia. This is very simple for me. And I want to take a minute here to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know what Chip Kelly was thinking. Because this whole team, and I'm just being objective, and for any Eagles fans out there, the guy I mentioned last week on my video, if anybody watched, Josh P. If anybody any Eagles fans take offense to this, put in the comment section, and we can talk about it. But Chip Kelly has created a team of guys that cannot finish. And it's something where this team this year is a team that has shown flashes and flares of brilliance in certain areas of the game. But they can't show a consistent basis in every phase for one game. Because, like yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles, in 16 quarters, 4 games, have not scored a point in 9 quarters. That's 56% of the time. Isn't Chip Kelly supposed to be this offensive mastermind? This great, offensive genius? But he hasn't scored a point in 56% of the game, in 56% of the season? Really? And then you look at DeMarco Murray. $42 million for a grand total of about 49 yards. I think they said just this morning he's on the verge of rushing for a grand total of 235 yards this year. Remember, this was a guy last year that led the league in rushing with over 1,800 yards. This is a man that broke Emmitt Smith's rushing record just last year, and he's on the verge of rushing for 235 yards. I really think that with just how they've used him, that DeMarco was just used as a ploy. Kind of like when you take a free agent. It's like, hey, we just don't want him on your team. We're not going to use him correctly, but we just want him away from you. And especially with all what the Cowboys are doing with their running back situation, with Randall having his ups and downs, and now Lance Dunbar having a knee injury, they definitely could use Murray right now. But then you look at still looking at the game yesterday. Sam Bradford played the best game of his entire career. Okay, he did. He threw for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the best stat line I've ever seen Sam Bradford play. And actually, for the first time all year, I'm not going to put any blame on Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford deserves very little blame. But it still comes down to that Sam, besides that one play to Selleck, still looks skittish in the pocket. He really couldn't make any moves. He really wasn't that decisive on that last drive, which really is a frustrating thing because I've never been a big fan of his. But that's always the problem he's had, is that every time he sees pressure, he just falls up. He's not going to try to step up. He's just going to try to walk away and get sacked. I understand. The offensive line was horrible. Okay, and it's been a problem all year, especially since they lost Andrew Gardner. But I'm just looking at Chip Kelly. And I'm going to say this like I said this to somebody the other day, last night. Nick Foles, LaShawn McCoy, Trent Cole, Todd Herremans, Brandon Boykin, Evan Mattis, Jerry Macklin. Those 7 guys, the 7 main guys Chip let go, have a combined total of 13 wins. And again, somebody can say, oh, that's not fair. You're combining 6 different teams and comparing it to the Eagles. It's not about necessarily the wins. It's the talent. that those 7 guys have 13 wins for their respective teams. Chip Kelly right now has 1. So, to me, this has been a huge failure for Chip Kelly, the general manager, and the coach, because he just hasn't brought any talent to work in this system. And I really believe that people in Philadelphia will want this man's head by the end of the year. And so to get back to the game, and thanks for that little diatribe about Philadelphia, I'm taking New Orleans because they just have the better quarterback. It's almost the same situation. You have Robinson, Ingram, and CJ compared to Sproles, Matthews, and Murray. The receiving cores are about even. Willie Snead had a really good game last night, though. 70 yards, which was pretty impressive because I'd never even heard of Willie Snead. He was a practice squad player on the Browns. But you look at this, the running games are about even. The offensive lines, you can give New Orleans a bit of an edge. The secondaries, you can give a little bit of an edge to New Orleans, I think. And then the front sevens are about the same, even though, again, Kiko Alonso's out for a month, and Michael Kendrick is still battling a hamstring injury, and Byron Maxwell went out of the game yesterday, so you don't know what condition he will be in for this week's game. But it just comes down to, again, that if you give me Drew Brees, and again, this is a rematch from 2013 where the Saints went into Philly and beat Chip Kelly in that playoff game. So, when you look at the Saints and when you look at the Eagles teams, about the same type of team, decent secondaries in certain ways, front sevens are decent. Philadelphia has a little bit of edge there. Philly has the edge in front seven. New Orleans has the edge in secondary. The running games are about the same. The wide receivers are about the same. And the New Orleans offensive line is just a little bit better than Philadelphia's. So when I look at that, I looked at New Orleans had won 5 straight road games. They won 5 of their last 7 road games. And they won in Philly the last time these two teams played. So I'm going to take that with me. And also, again, to just at the end of the day, give me Drew Brees over Sam Bradford any day of the week. The way Drew Brees played, coming off that rotator cuff injury, he didn't look, like Brees himself, but he looked like a good enough Drew Brees to say he can beat this Eagles team with the weapons he has. And kudos to New Orleans, that was a gutsy call, even though, again, they're kicking. It was kind of odd because I watched that and I saw Zach Hocker, make a 51-yarder, but he missed a 30-yarder. It was kind of like what happened with Tampa a couple weeks ago. I was like, you got to be kidding me. How can you make the 51 but miss the 30? It's like, I'd rather you miss the 51 and hit the 30. Because I can say, well, hey, it's 50 yards. Get the kicker slack. I guess I don't. But again, to get back to the game, Philadelphia just doesn't have the better quarterback in this game. New Orleans have won 5 of their last 7 road games. And I just feel confident that this New Orleans team can get a little bit of momentum, especially against this reeling Eagles team, to build some confidence that they can maybe get on a roll. So that's what I'm taking the Saints to beat the Eagles. Falcons over Redskins. Dan Quinn has done a phenomenal job. This team is one of the best in the NFL. I think right now you could argue that it's the second best team in the NFC behind Green Bay. And just looking at what they were able to do to Houston, and also Devontae Freeman, who I think has beaten Telvin Coleman with his play to earn the job as the starting running back for the Falcons for the rest of the year. He has 6 touchdowns. He got about 130 yards from scrimmage, and I had him on my fantasy team, which was huge too. But they have that good of a running game, combined with Matt Ryan throwing them Roddy and Julio and Leonard Hankerson and Tammy. And this Atlanta team just looks completely solid in all phases of the game. I think they're not pretenders. They are contenders. Just because they have battled a lot of adversity this year with their first 3 games, trailing in the fourth quarter and winning those 3 games, and just looking like they have a lot more confidence. than they did under Mike Smith last year. Which puts me with this Redskins team. Kirk Cousins played his best game of his career yesterday. When you can lead a 15-play, 99-yard drive, it's incredibly impressive. And again, Kirk, he earned another stripe. He earned some more confidence in Jay Gruden, and it definitely put another nail in the RG3 Washington coffin, because I just don't think, again, that RG3 would have done that. I don't think with the weapons with the way Kirk's been playing, which has been a little bit better than he usually does. Again, he didn't have an interception. So that's the second time that, that's the thing. If Kirk doesn't have an interception, he looks pretty good. Once you start throwing interceptions, that's where you see the bad Kirk Cousins. And he has played Atlanta before, 2013. That was that infamous game where Mike Shanahan decided to go for 2 instead of going for overtime. And I remember that game, he threw for about 320 yards. He had 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. That was, I think that was his second career start. Not bad. But when I look at this Atlanta team, they have way too much talent for those Redskins secondary to deal with. Riley Cooper and Miles Austin burned the Redskins secondary. So if those 2 guys can do that, just imagine what Julio and Roddy can do. And also, I'm just going to look at the fact that the Redskins are 2-0 at home and 0-2 on the road. Or I'm sorry, they're 1-3 at home and they're not won a game on the road. Last time they played on the road was the Giants game where they looked outmatched. I think Atlanta, they're going to get after Kirk Cousins. They're going to make him, they're going to cause him mistakes. And he will throw an interception against this team. But I'm going to take Atlanta just because they have way too much talent around the board. I think Devontae Freeman, has been a monster. That offensive line has been pushing defenders back. The Redskins really haven't got that much of a running game at all. Before Alfred Morris started running on that last drive, Chris Thompson was the leading rusher on that team. And he had only about 60 yards. So, Atlanta's defense could shut down the Redskins' running game enough. I think the Atlanta offense can abuse the Redskins secondary a lot for them to win this game and go on to 5-0. If you would have told me the Atlanta Falcons would have gone 5-0, I would have laughed. But now with how this team's playing, I'm not surprised. So, I won't be surprised. So that's something I'm going to take Atlanta to beat Washington. Seattle and Cincinnati. This was really tough, and some people might think I am picking the upset here. And I might be. But Cincinnati, over the last 2 years, or going on the last 3 years, has gained a Seattle-type home field advantage. They are 16-2-1 at home over the last 3 years. Seattle is 20. Let's see. They've only lost. They are 23-2, and they should be 24-2 at the end of this. So they are 24-2 at home. So both these home fields over the last few years have had about the same type of effect. Not many people go into their home stadiums and win games. Seattle is 0-2 on the road, so that is an advantage for me in this one. And there's just a part of me going, Cincinnati this year looks different. Andy Dalton is playing the best football I've ever seen him in his career. He's thrown 9 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns and no interceptions. The running game has been really effective. The defense held Kansas City. Alex Smith threw for 398 yards, and he didn't have a touchdown. And he completed 68% of his passes. Let's think about that, ladies and gentlemen. A quarterback completed 68% of his passes, threw for almost 400 yards, and did not have a touchdown or an interception. How bad of an offense do you have to be? Okay, and that would be but how good of a defense do you have to be to prevent the Chiefs 7 times from getting 1 touchdown? So, again, you could say it's Alex Smith in the offense, but I'm going to give Cincinnati's defense a lot of credit for that because I think that's incredibly impressive. But I just think the Cincinnati team, Geno Atkins, Johnson, they're all getting sacks and goal. Dunlap has a sack now. The secondary's been really effective. It's not no Legion of Boom. Don't get it twisted. But I think the biggest thing for me is Marshawn Lynch is out tonight. So I think Thomas Rawls, the undrafted rookie they got, is going to start. If Marshawn Lynch is out for this game, which I think that they definitely are going to try to get him healthy for this game, I do not think that Marshawn or Thomas will be effective enough in this running game to give the Seahawks a chance. So, again, I think Cincinnati, they have better wide receivers than the Seahawks do, and I just feel, again, they're in Cincy. I think Cincy's home field advantage is just as potent right now as Seattle's. Maybe not crowd noise, but just effect. I just put out the records. But if Marshawn Lynch is not 100%, which he won't be if he plays or not, and if he doesn't play, which I'm expecting, I think Seattle's running game will be neutralized very much by the Cincinnati defense. And Seattle, with Russell Wilson, with the weapons he has, cannot be one-dimensional enough to throw them to victory. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm excited. This is the Super Bowl team. This is their first legitimate test with Cam Chancellor back against a hot Bengals team that is trying to make a statement saying, we are here to stay and we are different than the past 4 years. This is my game of the week. I'm excited for this one. But I'm going to take Cincinnati just because I trust that home field. They have more wide receivers. They have more receiving talent. And I don't trust Marshawn's health right now to be effective enough to change the game for the Seahawks to win. So that's what taking the Bengals over the Seahawks. Kansas City over Chicago. This is really tough. This was really tough. This is literally, again, just like this is the same team. Basically, you have two quarterbacks, one that has a better arm than the other, but that makes more mistakes than Jay Cutler. Even though kudos for the Bears. After everything that went on this past week, they traded away Jared Allen to the Panthers. They traded away John Bostic to the Patriots. They don't have Tim Jennings. Alshon Jeffrey was out again. They're even possibly considering trading Matt Forte. So beat a Raider team that I thought was coming on the rise. Thank you, Chicago, for maybe putting a little bit more sense saying they're still the Raiders. And they still have time to grow. Because I actually couldn't believe that their team, without depleted it was able to beat that Raider team, which it looked hot. But I look at this game and go, these are basically the same kind of team. Because everything that Jay Cutler has in arm strength and touchdowns, he makes some mistakes. Alex doesn't have an arm strength, but he doesn't make as many mistakes. The running games, even. I'll take Charles or Forte, that's a crapshoot. The receivers, Bears have Jeffrey, if he plays. Chiefs have Macklin, they don't really have anybody else. So this one to me just came down to the defense. And Kansas City just has a huge edge at defense with all the guys they have. Kansas City, they have this odd feeling to me this year of they're awkwardly competitive. That, like, when you look at the scores of all their games, you're like, wow, they could have won every game. Or they were competitive in every game. But the key thing you realize at the end of the game is like, oh, yeah, they were down 35-7 at one point. Or, oh, yeah, they couldn't even score touchdowns. Because I had this great joke, that DirecTV commercial, where you have the one athlete that's like, I have DirecTV. And it's like, the other one's like, I have cable. I thought Andy Dalton was the guy with DirecTV, and he led his team on touchdown drives, and Alex Smith was the guy that had cable, and he led his team on field goals. So, this is at home. This is an angry Chief team that wants to make a statement that, hey, we can still be competitive. And the thing to me that I look at is this. Kansas City's defense will make more of an impact on this game than Chicago's defense will on Kansas City. Could Chicago win this game? Yeah, they could, because actually, for the most part, this might sound odd, Jay Cutler's actually played pretty well in Adam Gase's system. I never thought I would say that. But he played pretty well in Adam Gase's system. But I think Kansas City's defense is going to give him a lot of pressure, and they're going to be able to shut down more effectively the weapons that Chicago has than Chicago's defense will on what Kansas City has. It's a great game. It's an even matchup. It's kind of an awkward one because it's kind of like one of these teams has to win, but it's I don't know who. But in this one, I'm going to take the home field, and I'm going to take the non-mistake maker over the mistake maker in Smith over Cutler to win this game. So that's what I'm taking. Kansas City to beat Chicago. Jacksonville and Tampa. This is the awful game of the week. And I'm taking Jacksonville just because they've looked better. Jacksonville over this year has looked better than what Tampa has. And Jacksonville could be 2-2 right now. The Jaguars could be 500 at this point of the year. Who would have known? But Jacksonville, when I look at Tampa, Famous Jameis was the reason. Famous Jameis has had a very rookie-type start, and it's not a good one. He has thrown a lot of interceptions. He has caused a lot of turnovers by himself. And I think, again, Jacksonville will capitalize. Because Jacksonville's defense caused a couple turnovers yesterday. And it was incredibly impressive. If it wasn't for their kicking, and just a little quick side note, kicking has been awful in the NFL this year. I can't believe how many kickers have missed 40-yarders, 30-yarders, back-to-back kicks. The Jacksonville kicker had 3 chances to win the game, and he blew it. And I think that they should cut him and maybe get Josh Scobie back. That'd be hilarious. Pittsburgh cuts you. You can come back home and you can kick for us. But I just think Tampa. The biggest difference is Jacksonville has looked a lot more competitive in the 3 games they have played. And in the 4 games they have played, besides New England, but nobody expected that. Because I think if Tampa played New England, they would do the same thing. And also, I just trust that Blake Bortles is not making as many mistakes as Jameis has. And I think Jameis' mistakes will be the reason why the Jaguars win this game. Because it was Jameis' mistakes, it was the kicker for Houston. But it'll be Jameis' mistakes that'll be the difference in this game, which will give the Jacksonville Jaguars their second win. Who would have thought after 5 weeks the Jaguars would be 2-3? Who knew? But that's what I'm taking the Jaguars over the Bucs. Arizona over Detroit. Arizona, Tyrann Mathieu said, I just read something that he thought that they beat themselves, and I can agree with that. But you're playing a Detroit team that really doesn't have that much of a defense. They've let running games go wild. They've let passing games go wild. And Arizona has a good enough running game and passing game to do both. Detroit, they just look, very lackluster. I think Peterson can handle Johnson enough. They're not really getting enough from their tight ends. Stafford's not really putting the ball at a good enough spot. And I just don't think that Arizona, they're going to be motivated after losing to this Rams team. Detroit doesn't nearly have anymore the pass rush that St. Louis has. So I think Carson will have a lot more time in the pocket. Arizona has way too many weapons offensively that Detroit can't compete with, especially with George Bell dealing with an ankle injury. And I just feel that, again, Arizona is going to bounce back. They're playing a winless Detroit team that's on the verges of just letting their season die. And I'm gonna trust that to win this game. So that's what I think Arizona to beat Detroit. New England over Dallas. This is the easiest game of the week. Dallas, it's been awful. They've actually been a lot more competitive than people would think. Even though, again, they did play the Falcons and the Saints. But when you look at Dallas, they're just too injured. They lost Sean Lee to a concussion. They lost Bryce Butler to an ankle injury. They will not have Lance Dunbar, I think, next week. They still don't have Romo. They still don't have Dez.
Terrence Williams really has not been effective as a number 1 wide receiver, which I thought he would be. I thought he'd be able to step up. He has not. And then you just look at, Dallas, even though, again, they're going to get Rolando McClain, and they're going to get Greg Hardy back this week, which will be huge. But when you just look at it, this is New England. This team, they're on a 16-0, 2007 type tear right now. And honestly, I am going to tell everybody this, and you may say that I'm giving too much love to the Patriots. This team could go 16-0. I don't think they will, but they could. Because the only game I really think they're going to have a test with is week 13 or week 15 when they have to go to Denver. That's their best chance of losing, is going to Denver. If that game was in New England, I would tell you right now, the Patriots are going to run the table. I would have no qualms in that. But facing a Dallas team with Brandon Weeden, who is still leading the NFL with his 10th straight loss, and kudos to the Saints, just one more thing about the Saints, kudos for the Saints for ending their 6-game losing streak at the Dome. Losing 7. Ending their 7-game losing streak at the Dome. Congratulations to the Saints fan, that's over, and now you can just move on. But New England just has too much talent. Brady, going up against that Dallas defense, which has looked porous over the last 2 weeks against receivers. They're not going to stop Gronk. They're not going to stop Amendola. They're not going to stop Edelman. They can't stop, Willie Snead and Brandon Coleman. You just imagine what Brady can do against that battered defense. So, this is an easy one. That's why I'm taking New England to beat Dallas. Denver over Oakland. Oakland losing to Chicago just was the nail on this one. I thought if Oakland could have beaten Chicago, and just about Denver looked, even though, again, their defense has been carrying them all year long. I agree with most people. They're carrying this team, which is incredibly surprising because I thought Peyton Manning would. But this is kind of... to see this number 1 overall defense in the Broncos right now, it's scary because this is Orange Crush-like. They got 6 sacks on Bridgewater and a forced fumble to end the game. But Oakland losing to Chicago was the sealer for me to take the Broncos in this one. I actually might have thought if Oakland would have beaten Chicago like I thought they would have just beaten them, I might have taken Oakland just because Oakland had been on a roll. Look, do I think that Oakland and this Denver-Oakland game will be a lot more competitive than the 2 they had last year? Absolutely. This Oakland team has improved a lot. But again, when it comes down to it, Denver's defense is just way better than Oakland's right now. And you just give me Peyton Manning or Derek Carr, give me Peyton Manning every day of the week. Again, it should be a great game. And again, Oakland put a much bigger fight than they usually do against Denver, just because they have too much talent. But with the running game, Latavius Murray is having, that was a horrible fumble that I think was the difference in the game. And just again, if Jay Cutler can lead a game-winning drive, Jay Cutler, by the way, who threw an interception late in the game, they gave the Raiders a chance to win the game, and they should have. They should have. But if Jay Cutler can lead a drive with Martellus Bennett and Eddie Royal being his primary 2 targets to win the game, just imagine what Peyton Manning can do with his offense. Okay, so again, they are getting a running game. Congrats for Ronnie Hillman getting about 100 yards. Kudos to him. But I'm taking Denver just because they're just way too talented, and Denver's defense is just destroying people, and I think they're going to destroy the Raiders. So that's what I'm thinking, the Broncos to beat the Raiders. Giants over Niners. I am going to say this. The Giants, we may have underrated them. Because, again, this team could be 4-0. But the way they played that Buffalo team was extremely impressive. Remember, they did not have Victor Cruz again. And the fact that they were able to hold that Bills offense, which had scored, 24, 33, 41 points last week, and 74 points over the last 2 weeks. That's 37 points a game. The fact that Giants defense, with what they have, held that defense to 10 points, held that offense to 10 points, wow. That's impressive. And again, and let's remember that, the Giants defense held the Bills offense to the same amount of points, the same amount of points the Niners have scored in the last 2 weeks. So, that alone was just good enough for me to take the Giants to win this game. The Giants just, again, they look, Eli Manning is playing a really sharp. The running games are being really consistent. San Francisco, Kaepernick's regression, and it's sad because it's almost like, again, it's like they were given fool's gold to give Kaepernick that huge extension. But again, San Francisco and New York. San Francisco won this game last year because of Eli Manning throwing 5 interceptions. Eli Manning, I don't think he's going to throw 5 interceptions against this defense this time. And I think Kaepernick might be the one that throws 5 interceptions against the Giants defense. But I look at this game and say the Giants just have played way better in all phases of the game compared to the Niners. And also, it's at home. West Coast teams going out to the East Coast don't really fare out that well. A lot of jet lag. And I think this is just going to continue to boost the Giants' momentum, who I'm going to pick right now to win the NFC East because they have the most consistent team out of all those teams. And, yes, that's why we're going to take the Giants to beat the Niners. And then finally, Pittsburgh over San Diego. San Diego's going to get Antonio Gates back. Pittsburgh's going to get Martavius Bryant back. Michael Vick played decent enough for me to believe that this Charger team, who had to win by a field goal off offsides to beat the Browns, I just have enough faith in Pittsburgh saying Bryant being back, it's not Dez Bryant, it's Martavius, will be the difference in this game to give the Steelers the win. I know San Diego's going to get Gates back, and that's going to be huge. And I'm expecting a huge offensive game. These two defenses really haven't, Pittsburgh's defense, they've done really well, but San Diego's defense, they really have kind of struggled, especially against the pass and the run in some ways. More passing than running. But I think Pittsburgh's passing offense is way too much for San Diego's secondary to handle. And I think Michael Vick with his deep arm, especially having that big Martavius Bryant on his side, will be the difference in this game for the Steelers to win this game. Could San Diego win this game? Yeah, they could. Phillip Rivers has been on a great roll this year, and he's played, pretty well for the most part, except the Vikings game. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh just because they have too much talent at receiver for me to take over San Diego, who may not have Malcolm Floyd because he went out of the game against Cleveland in the second quarter last week. So those are my thoughts and my picks for all the games this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. I'm going to put it back in the bottom link, and I'll give a few shout-outs here to all the guys. Gio Knows, a shout-out to him. Andrew Warren, thanks for showing me your picks. Best luck to your Patriots, and again, check him out, Andrew Warren. Really good prognosticator. He went, I think, he's gone 11-3 this week so far. He's beaten me by about 3 games, so kudos to him. Let's see. Mr. Poetic, he's been on my comments. Bridgewater's Finest, Billy B, and all those guys. Shout outs to them. And that's it. So, like, comment, rate, subscribe. Best of... Sorry, guys, I'm struggling through this here. Best of luck to all the players, all the teams, all the coaches, all fantasy players, and all fellow YouTube prognosticators. Also check out Edwin Lerner, really good prognosticator. He has a good sense. Yeah, he's also a really big astrology fan, so I digress. But good luck to all players, teams, coaches, fellow prognosticators, and fantasy players. And until next week, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Till then, so long.